Anyway, we're very fortunate to have Letitia Hill as our moderator. Please welcome her.
Good morning. This is very exciting. I was coming in this morning and I didn't know whether to park on the right or the left, so I just parked diagonally, so I apologize to whoever was next to me. Just say it. Very excited to have the start of the morning off. We want you to join me in welcoming and thanking Congresswoman Kathy McMorris-Rodgers and Rich Cowan for participating in this morning's program. So now I will use both bios, and then I will have them join me up here. Kathy was first elected to Congress in 2004 and is now in her fourth term representing Eastern Washington's 5th Congressional District. Congresswoman McMorris-Rodgers currently serves on 3 subcommittees that include Energy and Power, Environment and Economy, and Health. Congresswoman is married to Brian Rogers, a retired 26-year active-duty Navy commander, and they have 2 children, Cole and Grace. Please welcome Congresswoman McMorris-Rodgers. Business owner Rich Cowan pioneered the acclaimed film and video production company North by Northwest Productions. They have received regional and national recognition for their success and put Spokane and Eastern Washington on the map as an attractive destination for film and production work. Mr. Cowan is the father of 2 grown children, Kristen and Casey. Rich already actually did the coin toss, and Mr. Cowan won, so he will be doing the opening statement and the closing statement. Please join me. Now, Libby Barnes, the woman right here in the fantastic blue, is going to sit in front of the candidates and she'll be keeping time of the responses. She will alert you both when you have 30 seconds left. And hopefully, when your time has expired. Hopefully not when your time has expired, but 30 seconds prior. There are no cards on pins on each of your tables. If you would like to ask a question of the candidates, please write it down on the card and hold it up. And GSI staffer will come and pick those up, and we'll ask those when we get to that segment of the program. So first, we will have a 2-minute opening statement by each candidate. Mr. Cohen.
Well, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Hello, good morning. I'm worried for our district and our country. We have $16 trillion of debt. $8 trillion just in the last 8 years. The fiscal cliff looms with another $7 trillion of economic calamity. And meanwhile, the other Washington is doing nothing. The U.S. House has spent 13 working days since July, and they're off the job until after the election. Getting themselves reelected and helping other career politicians with their elections is more important than solving this fiscal cliff. Bond and market rating firms threaten to lower our credit rating because the federal government can't work together. And guess what? They're right. Partisan bickering on both sides. Worst Congress ever with a 10% approval rating. You know, the Founding Fathers' vision was citizen legislators. You have a career, you hold office for a short time, and you come home. It's not a job where you pander to the special interests who re-elect you. No, you are sent to Washington to get the job done right. Now, I was born here. I'm a cougar, and I put myself through school working as a firefighter. I created a company called North by Northwest, and I understand how jobs are created and destroyed. Government doesn't create jobs, people do. I stayed home and brought hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars to this area. And when I decided to be your representative, I left the company debt-free. And that is the know-how I will bring to this broken Congress, stop the partisan bickering, and find compromise. We don't need the Democratic answer or the Republican answer. We need the right answer. An answer that honors our values, values that keep our promise to seniors, our veterans, and our military. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and I would like to first start out by thanking GSI for hosting this debate. Thank you to Rich Hadley and all of the membership of GSI for the important leadership that you provide to our region. Thank my opponent for being here, but most of all, I want to express my appreciation for the tremendous honor of serving as your representative in Congress. I'm from here. This is my home. I was raised on the farm, first in my family to graduate from college. Spent 13 years working in our family business, the Peach Press Fruit Basket. And then in 2004, I had the tremendous honor of being elected to Congress. And I work hard every day to be worthy of the trust that you have given me. As your representative, I get to see a lot of what's happening in Eastern Washington. I get to see and tour the businesses that are growing and creating jobs. I was out at Caterpillar earlier this week and visiting some other businesses. I've also met with the individuals that are out of work and are struggling. I've been to Afghanistan and I visited our troops. And I, every day, try to remember and remind all of us to thank those who sacrificed for the freedoms that we have and enjoy in this country. I couldn't do this job without being connected to so many people. And I share the dreams that we have here in Eastern Washington, the dreams for our families, for our children, for our businesses, and for our country. And as your representative, I view it as my job to make sure that that dream stays alive, the American dream, and that it isn't crushed by regulations and tax burden coming out of Washington, D.C. I've also worked across the aisle with both parties to get results, get the job done for Eastern Washington. I am working to advance projects important to Fairchild. I'm working to get that north-south freeway to the river. I'm working with our military families, rural health care, hydropower, and I'm committed to continuing to work for Eastern Washington.
Now we have some questions that have been posed from Greater Spokane Incorporated. The first one will be from Mr. Cohen. If elected, what do you believe will be the biggest challenge you will face on January 1st of 2013?
Assuming the fiscal cliff has been resolved, it's a huge problem right now. What we have going on right now, we have a sequester process happening. We'll have the largest tax increase in history. We would be cutting the military budget drastically and social services, and that's probably the biggest thing we have to resolve immediately is this fiscal cliff. We would have a credit rating downgraded. It would be a disaster. So that would be the first order of business. The second thing would be jobs. And we need jobs here. It's something I've done since I started North by Northwest 22 years ago. It's brought jobs to this area. And that's a big thing. We need people working. We have people working, solves a lot of problems.
January 1st is the day that has been coined the fiscal cliff. Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, was the one who coined it, and he said, because tax rates are set to expire, and if they do expire, it's going to be the largest tax increase on families, on individuals, on businesses. He said it's going to cost us 700,000 jobs, send us back into another recession, 2% drag on our GDP growth. And as I think about January 1st, we need to keep the focus on what is it going to take to get our economy growing and put people to work. And part of it is tax reform. It is simplifying the tax code, giving our small businesses some certainty moving forward. I've supported legislation. The House has taken action to extend the tax cuts for another year to give us time to enact tax reform. The House has actually passed an outline for tax reform the last 2 years. We've taken action on sequestration to reprioritize, so defense won't be taking those cuts. We need the Senate Democrats to come to the table and the administration to get the job done.
Second question, Mr. Cohen. What are your major regional priorities, and what will you do to ensure they are successfully advanced?
Well, as I mentioned, getting people working, jobs, and one of the things to do that is to encourage small business to hire more people. And I'm actually in favor of reducing the corporate tax rate by 1/2 to local business and other companies that only hire Americans. That'll free up capital. Thank you. One clap there. But that was nice. But that'll free up capital. That's the best way we can do to free up capital is to lower taxes, particularly at the corporate level. And I know at Northwest, if we had more money available, we'd hire more people and buy more equipment that in turn keeps more people working. So that's the biggest thing right now.
I do believe tax reform is important. I find it interesting. We do have the highest corporate tax rate in the world, and it's been the Democrats that have been the ones saying that this is the time to actually raise taxes on our small businesses, the top percentage of those within the income tax levels. And I think this would be the exact worst time to be raising taxes on our small businesses. They're our job creators. As far as regional priorities, I point to Fairchild Air Force Base, the largest employer here in Eastern Washington, and getting that the tankers replaced. I would the North-South Freeway and completing what we started there. It's not just the construction jobs, but it's the economic development that's going to come with that freeway. And we need to pull together as a community, as a region, and put it on the top of the list for the state and at the federal level and get that job done. I want to continue to promote hydropower. It is clean, it's renewable, it's affordable, it's reliable, and we could double hydropower in America without building a new dam, simply by investing in new infrastructure.
Thank you. Okay, this is a question from the audience. Congresswoman McCormick, so I'll take this first. Please explain your stand on Social Security and Medicare.
Sure. Well, both Social Security and Medicare are very important programs for our seniors. It is a safety net that many depend upon. We need to be taking action now to ensure that these programs stay in place. And whether it's Social Security, whether it's Medicare, I have on Medicare, it is a program that is on a path to bankruptcy. And you see it right now in Eastern Washington. Try to find a doctor who will take a new Medicare patient. It is very difficult, if not impossible, because the federal government isn't reimbursing the actual cost of delivering that service. And then they're facing more cuts. Obamacare cuts over $700 billion out of Medicare, continuing to make it more difficult on Medicare. I have supported a Medicare fix that wouldn't impact anyone 55 or older. Again, for those that are 55 or older, it wouldn't impact them. It offers a choice. If you like Medicare, you can keep it. If you want a different option, that would also be available.
We talk about Social Security, first of all. You've kind of give a sort of a generic answer there. We have a problem with Social Security right now. If we solve it now, rather than kick the can down the road, it won't be as painful. And we need to have political courage to do that, rather than just pandering to special interest groups. And I propose 72% of this problem will be solved by removing the cap on Medicare. And that will solve that problem for the future generations. So we need to do that. We need to have the political courage to do that. And as far as Medicare, well, I'm going to ask a question about you when it's my turn to do that. So be prepared.
All right. There's another question from the audience, and Mr. Cohen will take this first. Many in this room are risk takers. The incentives to continue to invest, particularly at the small business level, are diminishing. How do your economic policies promote investment and offer a return that will spur economic growth?
Well, I just outlined, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a risk taker myself. When I started the company 22 years ago, I had to mortgage the house, leave a really good job at KHQ, and start from scratch. And so I know what that's like. I had two children at the time that were very small. So it's something that we need to encourage and foster. Regulations and things like that. We need to make sure it's streamlined. We need to, again, government does not create jobs. People do. And that's what I've done. And I'm a living example of that. And as I mentioned, lowering the corporate income tax rate by half is a very good step in the right direction to get this economy moving. And that's what we need.
That 70 to 80% of our jobs are created with small businesses, and as I talk to small businesses right now, the threat of tax increases, those that are talking about raising tax increases, makes them very nervous. We need a streamlined, simplified tax code. They also talk about regulations, and there's a record number of regulations right now coming down from this administration. Over 1,200 major regulations. One businessman summed it up to me this way. He said, the only way to comply with all of the regulations is to simply not operate. And what kind of a message is that sending? So we need to take action. We need regulatory reform. We need tax reform. We need to address healthcare reform and what's driving the cost of healthcare in America. And there is one body, it's the House, that has taken action on all of these issues. We need the Senate and the Senate Democrats to come to the table and the administration so that we can get the job done.
Thank you. So Congresswoman, this question is also from the audience. So first, again, you're first this time. We are concerned with the continual congressional stalemate. How can this be broken and the country move on?
Right, well, I too am very concerned, and I'm frustrated, and we need leadership. We need both parties, Republicans and Democrats, working together. And when you look at my record, you'll see one where I have reached across the aisle to get the job done. One example is I co-founded and I co-chaired the Military Families Caucus, and it is putting a voice in front of military families on issues that are important to them. And Sanford Bishop, who co-chairs this caucus with me, is out of Atlanta, Georgia. He's a Democrat who flew to Spokane last fall to hold a summit here in Spokane for military families with me. And then this June, I was down there in Atlanta, Georgia, holding another summit with him at Fort Benning. You know what? You don't hear about members of Congress from opposite parties flying across the country, especially in an election year, to help one another. I am putting my words into action and actually working across the aisle. The hydropower legislation is bipartisan. The rural health legislation is bipartisan. I'm working with our senators on the North-South to get results for Eastern Washington.
Well, I appreciate your saying that actions speak louder than words, because that's true. But your actions really don't prove what you've said. You vote virtually party line in every vote, about 97% of the time. And you're running to be the head of the Republican caucus, which is the most partisan position in Congress. So, actions speak louder than words. We need a bipartisan approach, and it's not showing. If you talk about the North-South Freeway, you actually voted against the stimulus, which provided a lot of the money for the North-South Freeway. You did vote for a $10 million package in the Omnibus Transportation Bill in the last session, which is great. That's about 2% of the cost of what we spent so far. So, again, actions speak louder than words.
I would just encourage you to look at my record.
I was like, oh, I was having a Jim Lair moment. Now, each of the candidates will be able to ask their opponent a question. We'll start with Mr. Cohen.
Well, you've made the claim earlier here that the administration is cutting $716 billion from Medicare, which you know is not true. Yes, you actually voted for the same $716 billion cut in the Ryan budget, not once, but twice. So how can you criticize somebody for doing the same thing you voted for twice?
Well, I didn't support Obamacare. I didn't support the president's health care plan. And it was the president's health care plan and the way that they concocted the funding to try to suggest that it was budget neutral, that they actually went over to Medicare and cut $700 billion out of Medicare so that they could fund Obamacare. And the budget that I supported, the Ryan budget in the House, is a budget that actually makes some tough decisions across the board to set priorities, to start getting us living within our means. Over a 10-year period, it cuts $5 trillion out of the federal budget. Many say that we need to be doing more when you consider the fact that we have a $16 trillion budget. What I would, many have criticized the House budget that was authored by Paul Ryan, the budget chairman, but I would challenge them, if you don't like this plan, then put a plan on the table. We have a fiscal crisis in this country. You can't just criticize what one party is doing. You need to put your plans forward.
Okay. Congressman, it's
Okay.
your question.
Yeah, very good. Well, I wanted to ask Rich about Fairchild Air Force Base, because it's been a priority of mine to advocate for Fairchild Air Force Base for projects that are important to the base. And in June, back at the League of Women Voters Forum, you actually made a statement that members of Congress shouldn't be advocating for defense projects. And I just wanted to ask what you meant by that, and especially as it relates to Fairchild, and what your role would be as a member of Congress with Fairchild.
Well, actually, I'm a major, big-time supporter of Fairchild. And, actually Fairchild was started by, the businessmen from this chamber actually donated the land to start Fairchild. And I'm a pilot myself, and Fairchild's actually a very strategic location for the Great Circle route. It's a better location than almost any other base to fulfill that refueling mission. We need to make sure that Fairchild's going to be here. It's add $700 million to the economy. And we have a lot of people retiring that were at Fairchild. So honestly, we got to do everything we can do to preserve and secure Fairchild. Absolutely, that would be a huge priority.
Another question from the audience. Oh, here we go. Ready? Okay. What is your position on making pledges to outside groups? Congresswoman.
Well, I know this is this has been a big issue. It's been raised recently. Let me say that I have really limited in recent years the number of pledges that I have taken, because I want to keep all options on the table. I have support. When I first ran for Congress in 2004, I signed the Grover Norquist Pledge. And that is a pledge not to raise tax rates. And I believe we need tax reform that lowers tax rates, simplifies the tax code. I'd like to imagine us being able to send in our tax returns on the back of a postcard. And I disagreed with Grover Norquist, and I did publicly when he suggested that when we were trying to eliminate the ethanol tax credit, that somehow that was a tax increase. I think Grover is misinterpreting, at least from my perspective, what it meant when I signed that tax pledge. It was an effort to simplify and lower tax rates, and that is the pledge that I signed, and that's what I would continue to stand by.
Well, I don't really believe in signing any pledges to any special interest group at all. I think when you're a representative, you need to represent 100% of the district, all of us. Not 99 or 1 or whatever, but 100%. And the problem when you sign a pledge, you're kind of bound by it. And I just think you need to have that flexibility. Things change. We started 2 wars that were unfunded. $3 trillion added to our debt. First time we've ever done that in history. Sometimes we have to do something if we're going to enter into a conflict or look at infrastructure adjustments or whatever. We need to have that flexibility rather than have an arm tied behind our back with a pledge.
Mr. Cohen, you have the next question, which is another question from the audience. What are the 3 greatest economic opportunities in our region over the next 10 years?
Well, actually, the first one is preserving Fairchild. It's a $700 billion impact on our economy. The second one is to make sure that we have a vibrant agricultural industry. In this district alone, it's a $2 billion industry. And that affects all of us. All of us are affected by agriculture. And we didn't pass a farm bill, for example. And my opponent, who's not on the Ag Committee, something I would be on, is on the Ag Committee, wasn't able to get it to the floor to be voted on, and didn't even sign the discharge petition to get it on the floor to be voted on, even though other representatives from other farm states actually signed that discharge petition. So that's the thing. And then the third thing would be the whole health science corridor, which is exciting. You know, moving the pharmacy school up from WSU, the medical school, all the research that is associated with that is a huge impact on our economy.
Well, certainly jobs in the economy needs to continue to be the focus. Our unemployment is actually higher than the national average. And when I think about Eastern Washington, agriculture is our #1 industry. We absolutely need to make sure that our farmers can be competitive, can be productive. The Farm Bill is important. I'm not interested in playing politics or just playing with the bill. I'm about getting the job done, getting results. Even the chairman and the ranking member of the Agriculture Committee didn't sign the discharge petition. I've talked to the speaker, we're going to get that farm bill done. When I also talk to farmers, they're concerned about regulations coming out of EPA. Regulations like dust particulate on the farm. Regulations, you know, the regulatory climate in this country is stifling businesses. When regulations coming out of EPA, no cement plant in the country meets the standard. But regionally, I tend to agree Forward Fairchild would be at the top of the list, rural health. I'm excited about the medical school and working together to get those projects done.
Okay, Congresswoman, this will be for you. This is another question from the audience. As you may know, GSI opposes the proposal to build a massive casino near Fairchild Air Force Base. What is your stand on this critical community issue?
Okay, well, I'm certainly keeping a very close eye on this proposed development. I am first and foremost following the potential impact that it would have on Fairchild Air Force Base. And I have been out and met with the commander. I've met with defense leaders talking about this proposed development. What is most important for this community right now is to get the joint land use study approved. That is our responsibility as a community. The Air Force has funded this study, and that is how we protect encroachment issues around the base. So we need Spokane County, the city of Spokane, city of Airway Heights, city of Medical Lake, figuring out how to make sure that we as a community are doing our job. And I am actively involved in that, writing letters to them, and I have been talking to the Air Force too about potential impact on both current and future missions. We're going to continue to make sure that Fairchild is protected first and foremost.
Well, I actually agree with you wholeheartedly. I think what you said makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. I did want to talk a little bit about the Ag Bill again, and the job didn't get done, actually. It should have got done. You're going to have a fiscal...
Yeah, we have to finish. We have to answer the question from the audience.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good job.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Well, I agree that we have to study the whole situation up at Fairchild. It has to be 100%. I've seen the map that Rich brings around town and everything with the flight patterns, and as a pilot myself, we can't have any impact on at 100% level. So we need to do whatever we can make sure we secure Fairchild. That's the first step, and then we take the other step with the boundaries of land use and things like that.
Thank you. So now we have one more question, which is actually from Greater Spokane Incorporated. And let's see, Mr. Cohen will be first on this. What is your opinion of the Affordable Care Act? Do you think it should be maintained or repealed, and why?
Well, the Affordable Care Act, first of all, we all know we have a problem with the cost of health care. I know at North by Northwest, every year it has gone up about 15% a year. It's 17% of GDP right now. We can't be competitive as a country when we're spending almost double that of other countries with health results that are about the same or sometimes even worse. So it's a problem. The Affordable Care Act is a step in the right direction. We're able to get rid of pre-existing conditions. You can have your kids up there on the plan until you're 26. It removes the cap. It allows equal access for women. And the other thing is, healthcare insurance companies return about 65 cents on the healthcare dollar back into healthcare. The other amount is kept. Well, this reduces that amount that they can keep as administration or profit down to 15%. So that's a big first step going down this path to make sure we're competitive as a country. I think we're all concerned about that.
The problem with the president's health care bill is that it is a big government solution to one of the most personal aspects of our lives. And healthcare decisions belong in the hands of individuals and families with their healthcare providers. And we're already seeing the impact of this legislation. Premiums have gone up, skyrocketed, $2,400 per family in America. We're seeing the cuts to Medicare and the impact that that's having on access to health care for our seniors. Jobs lost. 23 million Americans are threatened right now to lose their employer-offered health insurance because of this bill. This bill needs to be repealed. We need to start over on health care reform that actually addresses what's driving the cost of health care, that will bring back choice to the individual and their families so that we have more choices in the marketplace to best meet the needs of our families. And that competition in the marketplace is what's going to help bring down the cost.
Thank you. So now we will have closing, and Rich has seen fit that you guys get an extra minute, which is fabulous. Yeah, I know, he's feeling very giving this morning. It's Friday. So, because Mr. Cohen won the coin toss, he will go last. Congresswoman, 3 minutes.
Yeah, I lost both coin tosses. So I don't know what that means. Well, again, just let me thank GSI for hosting today's debate. I think this is important. I count it the greatest honor of my life, serving in Congress and representing the great people of Eastern Washington. I've been looking just this past year, 40% of my time has been spent in Eastern Washington. I make it a high priority to come home. This is where my family lives, my husband's family lives. I come back regularly, every district work period, visit every county on multiple times. That's the only way that I can do this job and do it well. And right from the start, you have seen me. You've seen me helping run our family business, serving in the state legislature, and now being elected to Congress. You've also seen me get married and start a family. My priorities are here. My priorities are those of Fairchild, of our forests, our farms, our Air Force men and women, our veterans. Those are my priorities. My values are Eastern Washington's values. And when you vote this fall, I would ask you just to ask yourself, who represents my values, my beliefs about government, our future, and how best to create jobs? I believe in smaller government. I believe in a limited role for the federal government. I believe in living within our means. I believe in unleashing the power of free minds and free enterprise. And with your support, those are the values that I will bring to Congress. I humbly ask for your continued confidence, as well as your vote come November 6th. Thank you.
Well, this morning you've heard two slightly different paths for our country. You've heard a little bit about my path, plus this pledge to all of you. I will not accept any salary increase until Eastern Washington unemployment is below 5%. I'll forgo any pension until our nation has a balanced budget. And I will co-sponsor the No Budget, No Pay Act, so that members of Congress will not get paid until they pass a real budget by October 1st of every year. These are practical, real-world ideas to help clean up Congress and get going. And my opponent's focus is on re-electing other career politicians to this broken Congress and ending Medicare as we know it. And her path is, well, you're pretty much on your own. It's more of a survival of the fittest approach. My path is a blend of individual accountability and responsibility, which is extremely important, but also shared responsibility and accountability. And that's how we grow our country. That's how we work together. A few years ago, I did a movie called The Basket, and the theme was, divided we will falter, but together we shall fly. And by working together, we can build a great country and a great society. And it's more true than ever. We need to come down together and solve our problems. And together, we need to take on the issues that matter to us here in Eastern Washington, like creating jobs, preserving Social Security and Medicare, protecting veterans' benefits, and educating our young people for an increasingly competitive global economy. I want to thank GSI and the staff here, and I want to thank all of you for attending. It's a wonderful turnout. Great looking bunch of people, I have to say. And it would be an honor to represent you. And I wish you a great day and a very productive and profitable day. Thank you.
Now, running for office is never easy. And I just want us all to just, again, recognize both folks here because that they have a desire to serve our district. I think it's an amazing honor, regardless of who's in office. I just think thank you for offering to serve because it's not an easy job. So thank you.
All right. I'd like to thank once again American West Bank for sponsoring today's program. A big thank you to Letitia Hill for moderating and she did a wonderful job. Thank you to Representative Rick Morris Rogers and for Rich Cowan for participating today. And thanks to the ambassadors and for all of you for your membership and for attending. And we are adjourned.